In this video, let's optimize our Vue application's page load time by implementing lazy loading routes. First, let me briefly introduce the Vue project's build process. As developers, we write code in an IDE, for example, VS Code. Here is a typical Vue project with multiple .vue files. We're all familiar with this. When we are ready for production, we need to bundle everything into a format that is optimized for deployment. This is where Vit's build process comes in. By running the command npm run build, Vit processes our project and generates an optimized dist folder. Let's take a look at what is inside the dist folder. As you can see, there is an index.html, which serves as the entry point of our app. There is a set of compiled CSS and JS files inside the assets folder. And of course, there are other static files like icons, images, and fonts, which I didn't show here. The production build bundles everything together to ensure faster load times and better performance. Now that we have our built files, the next step is deployment. We upload the dist folder to a cloud hosting service like Vercel, Netlify, Firebase Hosting, or even a traditional on-premise server. Once deployed, users can access our app through a browser, and the server will serve the index.html file along with the necessary CSS and JavaScript assets. This works well for small projects, but as our app grows, we run into a problem: bundle size. Right now, as you can see, all JavaScript files are combined into a single bundle. That means when a user visits our app, they must download everything upfront, even if they only need to view a few pages. This leads to slow loading times, especially for users with slower internet connections. Let me show you a quick demo. First, let me create a new Git branch from the previous one. Git branch, Vue router, lazy loading routes. Git switch, Vue router, lazy loading routes. Let's build our Vue project. npm run build. Okay, as you can see, a dist folder is created. There is this index.html, a favicon, and the assets. As you can see, all the Vue code we wrote here are combined in a single JS and a single CSS file. And take a look at here. The CSS file is about 77.56 KB, and the JS file is 93.75 KB. So let me copy this and save them here. Okay. Next, let's start a local server and serve the dist folder. npm run preview. Okay, as you can see, Vit starts the server at a different port, 4173. This is different from the dev server port. Let's also start the JSON server. Okay, let's go back here and let's access this link. Let's press F12, and this time let's click the Network tab to monitor the traffic. So first, let's disable cache and reload. Okay, as you can see, our browser is requesting a lot of things from the server. And here we can use this filter to only focus on the JavaScript files that is loaded into my browser. And recall that this is the bundled JS file. And let's look at the size. The resource size is 93.7 KB, and 37.1 KB is transferred over network. So what does this mean? Here, the resource size is the original size of the resource before compression. Because the Vite server supports compression, the server sends a compressed version of the resource. But you need to know that the original size of the resource is 93.7 KB. 37.1 is the compressed size. So let's click this. And see here. If you see this, the file is compressed before being sent. Okay. But my point here is, even though in this case, I'm only interested in the home page, this entire .js, and here, this entire .css is sent from the server to my browser, because all Vue files are bundled into this single JavaScript file. Since this project is small and trivial, the file size is manageable, and the loading is fast, of course. However, as the app grows, the JS bundle can become significantly larger, impacting page load times. Imagine a Vue application with hundreds of views. Does it make sense to bundle all of them into one file? No, since most users will only visit a few pages, so loading everything up front is inefficient. A better approach is to split each route's components into separate chunks, in other words, separate JS files, and load them only when needed. This technique, known as lazy loading, optimizes performance by reducing the initial load time. So instead of shipping one large file, we break the code into smaller pieces, which Vue Router dynamically loads as users navigate through the app. Next, let's explore how to implement lazy loading with Vue Router to improve efficiency and the user experience. Here, let's turn off the server. And go to router index.js. The key is dynamic imports. And Vue Router supports dynamic imports out of the box, meaning that you can replace those static imports with dynamic ones. So let me show you. First, let's delete all of them. Then let's scroll down. First is the main layout. And here is the dynamic import. So make sure this is views. So here, the component option accepts an arrow function that returns a promise of a component, and the Vue Router will only fetch it when entering the page for the first time. Then, after that, Vue Router will use the cached version. That's really great. For your information, dynamic imports is a JavaScript feature. It is not a Vue feature. Since Vue.js is also JavaScript, so Vue also supports dynamic imports. Next, here we also need to dynamically import home, the home page. Next one is blog posts. Blog posts greeting. And here we have blog post. And here is as. Import. Views. As. Then here is about. Login. Finally, not found. In general, it is a good idea to always use dynamic imports for all your routes. So this is recommended. So no more static imports. Only and always use dynamic imports. Okay, so here, let me comment. No need to import the components here. They will be lazy loaded. Okay, cool. Then let's go to terminal and let's build again. npm run build. Now let's open the dist folder again. As you can see, there are multiple JS files and CSS files. So here is about, here is as, blog post, blog posts, blog posts greeting, home, index, login, main layout, not found, so on and so forth. It seems like each page or view has its own JS and CSS file. Okay. Let's also take a look at here. Let me copy this. Then let's paste it into the text editor so we can compare. Recall this is without lazy loading. And here is with lazy loading. Paste. So without lazy loading, there's only one large JS file and one large CSS file. But with lazy loading, there are multiple JavaScript files and multiple CSS files. Next, let's test it in the browser. npm run preview. Okay, then let's go to this link. Let's press F12. Network, disable cache. Let's first clear all the filters. All right. Then let me refresh. Okay. Then let me turn on JS. As you can see, 3 JS files are loaded: home, main layout, and this index. And we know that here we need the home view, main layout view, and so on. Next, let's click blog posts. Okay, now as you can see, the browser receives more JS files, blog posts, and blog posts greeting. So here, let's click the first one. It needs me to log in. As you just saw in the network, the login JS is requested. So John, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I press enter, the blog post.js and as.js will be requested. As you can see, they are loaded only when they are needed. Next, let me push the branch to GitHub. Git add, git commit, lazy loading routes, git push, in this video, we explored the Vue build process, why lazy loading is important, and setting up lazy loaded routes using dynamic imports. Remember this. In general, it is a good idea to always use dynamic imports for all your routes. In the next video, we'll explore how to dynamically add or remove routes while the application is already running. Because right now, all the routes are predefined or hard-coded in index.js. But can we add or remove them dynamically during runtime? Sure. See you in the next video.